Hey guys, welcome to Yogalates with SJ. It's so good to have you join me for this 30-minute workout at home Pilates. You don't need any equipment for the workout. When you're ready, we're going to begin in a tabletop position and dropping into cat-cow. Gaze comes up, tailbone up, and then pressing the mat away as you round the spine, chin to chest and tucking the tailbone. Inhale, gaze up, tailbone up. Exhale, rounding the spine, chin to chest. And inhale, dropping the belly, gaze up, tailbone up. Exhale as you round the spine, bringing the chin to chest and tucking the tailbone under. Inhale, coming back through center, staying here, tucking the toes under, and then lifting the knees up, hovering tabletop, pressing the hips back, and then shifting forward and pressing back. So all of the movement here is coming from those hips, and we are keeping a neutral spine. The pelvis is neutral, and you've got length through the back of the neck. The shoulders are away from the ears. Core is engaged, pressing the heels to the back of the mat, and pressing back and shifting slightly forward. And pressing back and shifting slightly forward. Beautiful. Keeping that core engagement, keeping that pelvis neutral, keeping a nice flat back here. And then when you come back this time, we are going to drop the knees, taking a moment here. And then we are coming back up, but this time we're going to bring the knees over to the right side and shifting forward and pressing back. So keeping your weight even through both hands. You have got your core engaged. The knees are over to the right side, pressing the heels to the back of the mat. You're keeping that flat back here and then coming back through center and over to the left. Knees come left and keeping your weight through both hands, through the center line here, but you are shifting forward and back, moving from the pelvis, moving from the hips only. Everything else is still here. Core is engaged, shoulders away from the ears, coming back through center and dropping the belly and gaze up, tailbone up, and then pressing the mat away as you round the spine, chin to chest. And coming back to your neutral. Back through center, and we are coming to our hovering tabletop again and shifting back and shifting forward. Keeping everything neutral here. You've got your core engaged, pressing the heels to the back of the mat, length through the back of the neck. Shoulders are pressing down towards the mat. You're not locking out those elbows. Keeping everything strong and still and stable and moving forward and pressing back. Awesome. Coming all the way down, we're coming to a plank position, and then we are shifting over to the right side, and you're going to lift the hips up and then drop the hips down and lift the hips back up. So you've got that top foot crossing in front of the bottom, and as you lift up, using your oblique muscles, the side waist muscles, to lift you up and then just lowering back down. We're coming back through center, finding that center plank here. You can drop the knees if you like, just taking a moment here. And then we're coming back up and coming over to the other side. So you are starting to lift the hips up and then lowering down and lifting back up. Your top foot is crossed in front of the bottom foot, and we are making sure the shoulder is in line with the wrist here, lengthening up, lifting up and lowering down, just a little drop down and a lift back up. Awesome. Coming back through center and tabletop, you're bringing your left hand behind the head and you're starting to lower the elbow down. And then inhale as you come back up. Exhale as you start to twist over to that right side. We're keeping length through the back of the neck. We are keeping the whole body really still here. We're working through the waist and also into the mobility through the shoulder. So finding one more before we come over to the other side. And let's switch it over. So finding that neutral pelvis, neutral spine, and then engaging into your core. Right fingertips come behind the head and you are lowering the elbow down and opening out and coming down. Opening out, keeping this going. We are really working into the side waist, keeping the belly button to spine the whole time. Pelvis is not moving. You are keeping your weight even through that center line. You've got length through the back of the neck and out the tailbone, and coming back through center, staying here and finding that neutral again in your tabletop position. Bringing your left fingertips behind the head, and you are lowering the elbow down. And then as you come back up, starting to straighten the arm and then bending the elbow and lowering the elbow back down again. So we are adding in a lengthening out of the arm as you come up, finding even more length out the fingertips, and then bending the elbow and then lowering that elbow back down and twisting over to that right side. And again, really bringing your mind to keep everything still here through that center line. You've got that flat back, you've got your belly button to spine, you are keeping weight even through that center line. Even though you're only on one hand here, imagining that you are keeping that weight even through the entire body. Beautiful job. Coming back through center, staying here. And let's come over to the other side. Right fingertips come behind the head, and we are dropping the elbow down and then lengthening the arm out and dropping down, keeping it going. Seeing if you can find a little bit more length out the fingertips each time you come up without locking out the elbow. So you are really bringing your mind to the muscles of the arm, through the shoulder as well, and feeling the intention of the movement. So really, really getting into all of the muscles of the arms, the back, the core, belly button to spine. Now we are coming down onto the forearms and pressing the shoulders towards the mat, keeping a neutral pelvis here and feeling that connection of the top of the feet and the top of the shins on the mat. Belly button comes to spine as you start to lift your right leg up, and we are just making little pulses up and down. So you are pressing the heel to the back of the room, and you are lifting up and lowering down. Tiny pulses here, keeping the core engaged and working into the glute muscle. And let's come straight over to the other side. Core is engaged, left leg lifts, lengthening the leg, toes pointing straight down and lifting up and lowering down. Tiny pulses, keeping length through the back of the neck, keeping the shoulders pressing down towards the mat, keeping that core engaged, working into the glute muscles, getting into the booty. Awesome. And coming all the way back. Staying here, guys, and we are starting to lengthen the right leg out, and we're going to do a little rainbow. So dropping the foot over to the right side and then lifting up and lowering it over to the left. So keeping this going, rainbow the leg. As you do this, making sure that you're not moving around in the pelvis or any part of the body. It is only working through the glute. So the glute is doing all the work here, and we are lifting up, lowering down, and lifting up, lowering down. Keeping this going. Core is engaged the whole time. You're keeping your weight even through that center line so that you've got evenness through both legs, both arms, all the way through that core. Coming back through center. Let's come over to the other side. Taking a moment here to find that neutral pelvis, neutral spine. Left leg comes back, and you're starting to rainbow the leg, using your core, using your glute and the pelvis to lift and lower the leg, really connecting into those muscles as you work into it, relaxing the jaw, gazing straight down or slightly forward of the hands to keep some length through the back of the neck, lifting up, lowering down. We're getting into that kind of smile line underneath the glute. Awesome. Lifting up, lowering down. Inhale, coming up. Exhale, lower it down. Controlling the movement. We're keeping the pelvis still and coming back through center, staying here and taking a moment. Just shifting the pelvis all the way back towards the heels as you bring the forehead down towards the mat. You can lengthen the arms forward for a bit of a stretch into the shoulders, allowing the tummy muscles to relax onto the top of the legs. If it feels better, you can have the knees out wider. And then when you're ready, we're coming all the way to a seat. You're bringing the soles of the feet onto your mat, and you've got the knees together and you're lengthening the arms forward in front of you. Shoulders are down and away from the ears. Sitting up tall, and then we're starting to tuck the tailbone and hinging back. And then inhale, sitting back up, belly button to spine. Exhale, coming back. Inhale, coming up. Exhale, tucking the tailbone, navel to spine as you come back. Keeping this going, so seeing if you can keep your belly button to spine the whole time. Maybe you might find yourself coming down a little bit lower each time. You might even find yourself coming all the way down and doing a full roll down and a full roll up, or you can stay with that half roll down. So what we want to make sure here is that we are really keeping that engagement of core, and you're rolling the spine. So as you come down, you're rolling all the way from the bottom of the spine to the top of the spine. And as you come back up, you're reversing this. So you are coming all the way back up, lengthening up, sitting up tall, and then exhale as you tuck the tailbone, chin to chest, and rolling back down, lengthening the arms up, circling the arms around, and then engaging the core to lift you back up. Sitting up tall, lengthening up, exhale, rounding the spine as you come all the way down. Keeping this slow and controlled. So the slower you go, the more challenging. Next time you come up, we're going to come over to bring the arms over to the right side, and you are hinging back and keeping everything through that center line still. And then inhale, coming back up through center. Exhale, coming over to the left side with the arms and hinging back. Inhale, drawing in as you come up, using your core to lift you, coming back through center and coming over to the right as you come back. Inhale, coming back through center. Exhale, coming over to the left and tucking the tailbone, rolling back. Inhale, coming back up and lifting, lifting, lifting. Exhale, coming over to that right side. So all the movement is coming from the belly button up here. So we are making sure that the pelvis is staying neutral, your hips are square, and you are, even though you're bringing the arms over to one side, you're actually rolling down the center of the spine as you come down and rolling back up through that center line, and then coming over to the other side as you twist through the waist and keeping everything lengthened here. Shoulders are away from the ears, not grabbing into those hip flexors. Just come back as far as what you can control this without letting go of that core engagement. We don't want to bring this into the low back, and we really don't want to start to grip too much into those hip flexors either. You might feel it a little bit there, that's okay, but just really moving at your own range and coming back as far as what you can keep that connection of the core the whole time. We're working into every single muscle of the abs of the core. This is so awesome for all of those core muscles. Beautiful. Coming all the way back through center, hugging the knees in, and we are rolling back and coming all the way down onto your back. Finding a little happy baby, whatever feels good here with that. Maybe grabbing hold of the feet or somewhere on the legs. And then when you're ready, we're going to take a big, big stretch. So lengthening the legs long and arms go long. And then just starting to bring the arms all the way down by your sides. And we are bringing the feet to come onto the mat, bending through the knees, shuffling the shoulder blades beneath you. Shoulders are away from the ears. And we're going to find a bridge here. So you're pressing the hips up towards the ceiling, lifting up nice and high, keeping your core engaged. So it's your core and your hips lifting up. You've got a neutral pelvis here. And we are just rocking the hips over to one side and then the other. So you're lifting up, lowering the right hip down to the right. Inhale back through center and then lowering over to the left. So it's just a tiny little hip dip, keeping everything nice and still through that center line though. Keeping the knees neutral and through the center. And you've got everything still except for just a little tiny kind of drop down of one hip to one side, then coming back through center and then dropping the other hip to the other side. You should definitely feel this in your glutes and your hamstrings. And Keeping the pelvis lifted. Don't drop it down. Keeping your core engaged. Belly button to spine. Even through both feet. Got the hips even here. And then rolling the spine, coming all the way back down when you're ready, and taking a moment here. Bringing the hands behind the head, and you're lifting the head and shoulders up off the mat. And you're starting to lift the pelvis up. So it's a tiny little lift of the pelvis up, and then pulsing up and down. Keeping the head and shoulders lifted the whole time, and you are just making little lifts and lowers of that pelvis. Just imagining that you are using your core muscles to lift up and lower down, trying to keep a neutral pelvis, so not so much tucking the tailbone, but keeping length through the base of the spine and keeping a nice long neck here. Tiny little lift and lower, breathing in, breathing out, and then lowering down and releasing. Bringing the feet out a little bit wider, so about mat width apart. You've got the toes turned out, heels turned in, and we're starting to come into a bridge here as you press the hips up towards the ceiling. Keeping a neutral pelvis, engaging into the core, shoulders are tucked underneath, and you are just rocking from side to side. So it's a very, very slow kind of sway from side to side. So keeping that lift of the pelvis up, and you are just working through the core muscles and the oblique muscles, the waist, as you gently sway the hips from side to side. As you do this, trying to keep the whole lower body really still. So we want to keep the knees as still as we can. We don't want to be turning those knees inward. We want to be keeping the lower legs really, really still. We are just almost imagining that we are simply only moving through the hips here, swaying gently side to side. The upper body is also staying as still as you can, keeping length through the back of the neck, relaxing the jaw. You should be feeling this, and taking a moment, coming back through center, rolling the spine, coming all the way back down, and bringing the knees in towards your chest, hugging the knees, letting the feet relax, the heels relaxing to the pelvis. Any kind of movement here that feels good as you start to just take a few cleansing breaths in through the nose and out the nose or mouth, relaxing and taking a very well-earned break. Then when you're ready, just starting to hold on to behind the knees, and we're going to start to lengthen the legs up towards the ceiling. So you can hold on to the legs if you want to, or you can have the arms down by your side. We're just going to start to open the legs out, and then we're closing back in. So you're lengthening the tailbone down towards the end of the mat. You're opening the legs out and then using the inner thighs to close the legs back inward. You've got a neutral foot here, and you've got the back of the shoulders connected. The whole spine is connected. You've got length through the back of the neck. You're imagining that you are resisting the air. So as you open the legs out, using those outer thighs to kind of press out, and as you close the legs back in, you are using the inner thighs to draw the legs back together. So you're working to your own range. It can be quite a small open out and closing back in, or you can start to make this a little bit bigger, but we want to make sure that we're controlling the movement here. Next time you bring the legs in, you're starting to press the heels up, flexing the toes back, and we're going to continue with this, but we are going to have a flexed foot. So keeping that pressing up of the heel towards the ceiling and flexing the toes back, opening out and closing back in. Keeping your ribs closed, your belly button to spine. You are using your core muscles as well to stabilize this, to keep everything still. Opening out, resisting through those outer thighs, and then drawing back in, using those inner thighs, bringing your mind to the muscles that we're working. Magnet those legs back together. You're keeping your pelvis in a neutral. So you're not tucking the tailbone, you're not sort of pressing the tailbone down. You've got a neutral pelvis, you've got a connection of the whole spine, and then coming back through center and staying here. Slightly finding that neutral of the feet, heels together, toes slightly turned out, and we're starting to just make a little lift up and down. So you're using your core to just lift up, lower down. So it's a really tiny little movement here. It is your core muscles doing the work. So we are using those abs, using those lower abdominal muscles and flexing the foot. Keeping this going. Toes come back towards the face, heels press up towards the ceiling, and we are bringing our mind to those core muscles, getting into those low abs, those hard to reach places. And now we are bringing the heels together, toes slightly turned out, and you are making little circles around, tiny little circles in one direction. Keeping this going, using your core muscles to drive this movement. It's only a very small circle, keeping everything else still, controlling this, and then reverse it, going back the other way. Little circles. And zipping up through that center line, keeping your ribs closed, neutral pelvis, breathing, and coming back through center, and bending the knees, letting the feet fall, and grabbing hold of the top of the knees or the shins, taking a moment here to relax down any kind of movement that feels good, maybe a little rock from side to side, letting the toes stretch out, and maybe you might grab hold of somewhere on the feet or on the back of the legs, finding a happy baby as you start to let the back of the shoulders release to the mat. Lengthening out the tailbone, pelvis is heavy, and tummy muscles relaxing down. Having a little play here with this. And then using your hands to close those knees back in together. And you have got the knees together. The arches of the feet are together, and you're starting to lower the knees over to the right side, and then inhale, bringing the knees back through center. Exhale, lowering over to the left side. Inhale, coming back through center. Exhale as you start to lower down over to the right, using your core muscles as you continue with this. So we want to make sure that we've got belly button to spine the whole time. You're only working at a range where you can fully control this. You're not bringing any kind of tension into the low back. So your core is stabilizing you here. And you can also use your arms too if you want to have the hands down into the mat, maybe bringing the arms out a little bit wider to help keep you stable. You can continue with this, moving at your own range, or next time you come over to the right, you might want to straighten the legs and then bend the knees, and then coming back through center, and then coming over to that left side and lengthen the legs out, bending through the knees again, and then coming back through center. So adding on, just making sure that you are keeping the whole spine connected. So we are really only working through the waist here, and we are twisting over to one side and then using the core muscles to stabilize and to bring you over to the other side. And we are maintaining that connection of core as you lengthen the legs out and bending back in, and then coming back over to the other side. Belly button to spine. Don't let that go. You can just come over a little bit, or you might start to come over a little bit more if you're finding that this is feeling really good for you. Now, next time you bring the legs out, keeping them here, we're starting to keep the legs straight and continuing to lower the legs to one side, then bringing them up and over to the other side. Heels together, toes turned out, and a little Pilates V. If this is too much to have the legs straight, you can have a bend into the knees and continue to do this. Or you might just continue to work into that smaller range. Again, just really making sure that you are not bringing any tension into your lower back here. The whole upper body is staying on the mat. You've got the spine lengthened out. You are coming over and using your core muscles, the oblique muscles, and all of the core muscles throughout to control this. Staying strong. This is awesome. Doing so good. And release it. Coming all the way back through center and taking a moment, stretching it out, grabbing hold of somewhere on the feet or on the legs, finding a happy baby here. And then you're crossing the back of the right ankle in front of the left ankle and just letting the tailbone release towards the mat as you let the knees relax down. And then switching sides. We are letting the back of that right heel relax onto the front side of the left ankle. You might just let the head kind of rock from side to side. Anything that feels good, wiggling through the jaw. Coming back through center when you're ready, you're going to cross the right ankle in front of the left, lengthening the legs up towards the ceiling, bringing the arms out wide, palms facing up, and then you're starting to lengthen the tailbone down, and you're going to start to bend through the knees here as you drop the back of the heels down towards the pelvis, and then lengthening the legs back up, and then bending the knees back again. And you're starting to keep the legs in this position, and you're just starting to circle around in one direction. So circling out, around, and then drawing back in through that center line. Just moving again at your own range here. You might hold on to the knees for this, or you might have the arms out. Just letting the outer thighs relax, the outside of the hips relaxing, the tummy muscles, circling around, feeling that nice massage through the low back as well. And then starting to come back through center, lengthening the legs back up towards the ceiling, bringing the arms down, pressing the palms down. And then you're reaching up and grabbing hold of somewhere on the legs. Maybe it's the ankles, maybe it's behind the knees, but keeping that cross of the ankles. You're starting to lengthen the tailbone down, keeping the back of the head and the back of the shoulders on the mat. And you're just starting to draw the legs in towards you. So just bringing those legs in as you kind of press the heels up towards the ceiling, finding some length through the back of the legs. Then bringing the feet to a parallel, just bringing the feet side by side, and we are pressing the heels up and maybe grabbing the feet and kind of drawing the toes towards the face as you lengthen the tailbone down, lengthening the whole spine into the mat, and then crossing the left ankle over the right, and you are letting the hips draw down towards the end of the mat. You can hold on to somewhere behind the legs, maybe grabbing the ankle, letting everything stretch out through the back of the legs, the glutes, lower back, connecting, and then dropping the heels to the pelvis as you let the knees fall out wide. And then just holding on to somewhere on those knees as you find those circles here. Letting the feet relax, the hips relaxing, letting go of any tension through the hips, through the legs, the feet, toes, ankles, tummy, jaw, circling in one direction and then the other, finding that nice little massage into the gut. So good for the metabolism, for the digestive system as well. Just massaging into the gut here with these circles. Awesome. And then coming back through center, holding on to the front side of those knees, bringing the knees together and the arches of the feet together, the back of the heels relaxing to the pelvis as you just let the arms go straight. So you're holding on to the front side of those knees, just finding a lengthening out of the tailbone down to the mat as you just then draw the knees in, and then starting to let the feet fall forward, and then drawing the knees back in using your core muscles, and then starting to shift those knees forward again. So you should feel this in those low abdominal muscles, really bringing your mind to those muscles as you draw the knees in, and then letting the legs come forward and lengthening the tailbone out. Keeping the ribs closed. Breathing deeply in through the nose, out the nose or mouth. As we start to unwind, coming to the end of our workout today. Just letting all of this go, and you can start to let the knees fall over to the left side as you allow the gaze to come over to the right. The arms might come out a bit wider as you start to find a nice little supine twist here. Maybe you're taking the left hand and placing it onto the top of the leg, just finding a little weighting down, or you might just let the arms be out wide in a T shape. Finding a nice openness across the front side of the shoulders. Relaxing the side of the head, even heavier, the jaw, all the muscles through the face. And then on your next inhale, starting to let the knees come up and over to the other side, lowering down to that right side, allowing the arms to come out wide, or maybe you've got the right hand relaxing onto that top knee. Weighting it down, just letting the head relax to that left side. Letting the back of the shoulders release down. Taking some nice deep breaths into the side waist. Whatever it is that you're doing today, I hope you have the best day. I can't wait to see you again soon. Make sure you check out all of the other workouts on the channel. If you enjoyed this one, there is new workouts every single week, so you might like to subscribe to stay in the loop. Have a great day, guys.